So friends, yesterday uh, we had input on concept of evaluation, concept of measurement, and types of evaluation, and we have also
Yes, sir.
studied the techniques of evaluation, and we have said that there is which can be employed for measuring the varied learning abilities of the students. So a test, answers a typical question, and that question is: to what extent does an individual perform either in comparison with other or in comparison with the domain of performance task? So it means our purpose is to compare the performance of one student against the stated learning outcome, and second purpose is to compare the performance of one student against the performance of another student, maybe in the same college or in the different institution, but under the same umbrella of either this state board of technical education or technical university. So a written test is made up of variety of test item, and one way of classifying the questions or test items is from the point of view of how you expect your students to respond to those items. Your students could either supply an answer to a question by a word, by a number, by few sentences or more sentences, or your students could either select an appropriate response out of the different responses supplied along with the question. So a test is made up of, you see selection type item, that is the multiple choice, alternate reasoning, matching type, and supply type item, where the students are required to compute, evolve, or supply an answer to a question. So under this category, we include short answer type questions, fill in the blanks question, or you can say completion type item, and essay type item. And essay type item can be further, broken down into two categories. One is restricted response essay question, where the student is not given enough freedom, because in that type of question, the nature of response and the scope of the answer to be discussed by the student is clearly indicated in the statement of the question. And the second is where the student is given enough freedom, and that is the extended response essay question, where student is free to select, he is free to integrate, he is free to organize the idea as he deem appropriate. So when enough freedom is given to the student, so you will find different responses to one question, and this kind of question introduces scoring difficulties or marking difficulties. Now, in this session, we will learn the guidelines of writing good quality supply type item, and in regard to guidelines of writing selection type item, my colleague Mrs. Amandeep Kaur will share the guidelines tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So now, first of all, short answer item. Short answer test is an objective test in which each item is in the form of a direct question. When I say, what is the normal temperature of human body, or a stimulus word, name one sulfide or of copper, okay, or a phrase, or a specific direction, a specific problem, the response must be supplied by the student rather than merely identified from a list of suggested answers supplied by the teacher. So this kind of test differs from the essay type primarily in the degree of structure imposed on the students and the length of the response. So this includes a short answer question and completion type question. So we include two types of item, that is a short answer question and completion type item. So under short answer question, the examples are like, in what year did man first land on the moon, or state the relationship between the molecular weight and the vapor density, name one sulfide ore of copper, 8 is what percentage of 64, state Newton's first law of motion, Name the device used in a vacuum cleaner to pump air into the dust bag. The atomic weight of potassium is 39, of chlorine 35.5, and of oxygen 16. Find the molecular weight of potassium chlorate. So now these are the direct question, or these are beginning with action verb: state, name, and find the molecular weight, and so on. So now let us have a look at the guidelines of writing good quality short answer item. The first guideline is that be sure item presented to the student is made explicit in the statement of the problem itself. So clearly specify the nature of the response to be made. Now, the poor example, poor item, who was George Washington? Now, to this question, you may get different responses, isn't it? You can think of the answers. So, better is, what was the name of the first president of US? This is better item. Now, if I ask you what is fuel, now you may get answer like petrified vegetable matter, impure carbon. When I ask you what is coal, okay, the answer could be impure carbon, or somebody would give the composition of coal, or petrified vegetable matter, or a glowing amber. Okay, but when I prepared this item, I thought that the student would answer as fuel, but there is nothing in the statement of the question to imply that the word fuel is wanted, because my question is what is coal. Okay, so the golden rule is, think of the intended answer first and then write the statement of the question to which that answer is the only appropriate response or answer. So this will avoid indefiniteness. This will avoid multiple correct answers. So this is a poor item. What is coal? Better item, like for what purpose is most coal used? From what substance coal was formed? Name the chemical elements contained. So these are very much specific. Okay. So if I asked you what is force, you may get the definition. You may get the meaning with the SI unit. So you have to, you see, specify, define force and state its SI units, isn't it? So you see, if I ask you what is chlorine, one would say it's a gas, it is an oxidizing agent, okay, or it is halogen. Now, what is chlorine? There could be any number of answers. Now, if I say chlorine belongs to group of elements when combined with hydrogen form, you see, salts. So therefore, it is called as dash, means halogen. Please prepare questions with brief answers only, because here we are not giving enough freedom to the student to respond. Okay, so questions with brief answers only. Another guideline is that in one statement, measure only one concept at a time. If I say define force and state its SI unit, so you can indicate the marks in the bracket that 2 marks are meant for definition and 1 mark is for SI unit. Or you can say A, question 1A is define force, question 1B is state its SI unit. Avoid using you see textbook wording in phrasing item. For example, if I say state Newton's third law of motion, now this is state you see textbook wording. Instead, you can ask its application. Okay, be brief and direct. Our purpose is not to confuse the student. Our purpose is to enable him elicit some answer. So you have to be very brief and direct. Another guideline is that direct questioning is having more you see benefits than the incomplete you see sentence, because direct questioning is more natural to the student, as it is the usual method of asking question in the classroom. We ask what is the normal temperature of human body. We never ask normal temperature of human body is dash. Okay, And secondly, the direct question, you see, usually better structures the situation and prevents much of the ambiguity that creeps into items based upon incomplete statements. Let me usually illustrate this by giving some example. Ramesh made his first orbital flight around Earth in dash. Now, you may get different responses: day, time, spacecraft, name of the spacecraft, year. Okay, when did Ramesh make his first orbital flight around the Earth? Again, you may get one or two answers, and the best one is, in what year did Ramesh make his first orbital flight around the Earth? You have to be very specific. Another is that you have to specify the degree of precision, that is up to what decimal point you want the numerical answer to a numerical. And you have to also specify the units. Say, what is the normal temperature of human body in degree Celsius or in degree Fahrenheit? So you have to specify. Another is that make each problem independent of the solution to any other problem. That is, you see, in Haryana, we find that about 30 questions are asked in a question paper. 10 questions are of very short type. Then there are 6 questions of short answer. And then 3 questions are of long answer. So sometimes there is overlapping, and try to avoid the grammatical errors. Like say, if I ask, name the authors who prepared the first IQ, so author word is giving the hint. Okay, so this should be avoided. Now, the advantages are that short answer questions are very useful for testing the knowledge of specific facts. That is the remembering part of the cognitive domain, Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, some computational questions can be asked, but not you see, much in detail. So here the student is uh, creating the answer, or supplying the answer, or evolving the answer, computing the answer. So guesswork is not there. You can very easily construct such type of item. There is no problem in construction, and these questions have also wide scope to test situations when it is presented in the form of maps, charts, and diagrams. You can give a flow sheet diagram and ask the student to label it. Okay, so such type of questions, you see, can be asked. The disadvantage is that, or limitation is that, higher mental abilities cannot be tested with the help of short answer type. Only the lower level of knowledge, that is remembering, is tested very, you see, effectively. And secondly, that it may suffer from subjectivity. That is, objectivity is not there in case the question is, what is force, what do you know about force? So objectivity can be enhanced if the questions begin with a specific action verb, and also the scope of the answer is also very brief and is indicated in the statement of the question. Now, coming to the guidelines of writing, you see, completion type item. So completion type item is a sentence or statement which has one, or at the most two, blanks for the students to, you see, fill in. So some one blank or maximum two blanks are inserted in the statement, or the sentence for the students to fill in. For example, normal temperature of human body is dash. Within bracket, you can write degree Fahrenheit or degree Celsius. So this is an example. And the guidelines of constructing completion type item include that word the item so that the required answer is both brief and specific. So you have to you have to write the statement in such a manner that you can expect the required answer from the students. For example, if I, you see, ask this question, an animal that eats the flesh of other animals is dash. So the student can answer any animal. Okay, but this is not very specific. Now I can make this a good item. An animal that eats the flesh of other animals is classified as. So I am asking about the classification. So carnivores. Okay. Another is use completion type item only when a direct question is not appropriate. For example, the direct question is copper a good conductor of heat and electricity? Now it may involve yes or no, or that is guesswork. This is not a good item. So here, this type of item can be converted into completion type item. Copper is a good conductor of dash and electricity. Uh, Omit keywords. Here we are not going to test the language ability of the student. Our purpose is to test the knowledge of students about some you see scientific term or principle. So for example, here the law of dash, so this is keyword, inertia is the answer, states that a body at rest tends to remain at rest and a body in motion tends to remain in motion. Do not omit too many keywords. Now you see, if you have three or four you have omitted three or four keywords, or you have inserted three or four blanks, perhaps you won't be able to, you see, make sense in this statement. Let me give you this. Dash animals that are born dash and dash their young are called dash. Now you see, the student is confused. He won't be able to, you see, complete this sentence. So we can say warm blooded animals that are born alive and suckle their young are called dash. So answer is mammals. The dash is obtained by dash the scores in a distribution and divided by dash. The mean is obtained by adding, this question I have taken from board, the Punjab Board of Technical Education. A dash is used to make dash measurements very dash, so very vague type. Now again, specify the degree of precision and the units desired. This is the guideline. And if you want the student to write the answer on the question paper itself, that is, you are collecting the question paper back, so the length of the blank should be of such size that the student is able to write the answer conveniently. So leave enough space. And if there are, say, three or five questions, this completion type items in question paper, so make all the blanks of uniform length. If you are keeping the length according to the type of the answer, according to the size of the answer, that will perhaps give the hint to the student. Let me give the example. Name of the part of speech that connects words, clauses, and sentences is, so conjunction. So I have left a bigger space. Now here, name of the part of speech that declares, asserts, or predicts something is dash, that is verb. So small. So please make all the blanks of equal size. Another is that use statements for which there is only one correct answer. Okay. Avoid grammatical clues to the correct answer. For example, an elementary particle carrying a charge of negative electricity is called an. So instead of writing an, you put n in brackets. So is called a or is called an. Okay. This is giving some clue. Steamboats are moved by engines that run on the pressure of. So steamboat is giving the hint. The answer is, you see, steam. Uh, Thunderstorms form when columns of dash air rise to cooler altitudes. So cooler word is giving hint, because before that it was warm or hot. Okay. Blank should be placed at the end of a statement rather than at the beginning, because if you put blank in the beginning, the student has to spend more time in understanding the nature of the question. Okay. If I ask dash, dash, and dash are the three gases which constitute the Earth's atmosphere, so this is not a good item. You see, you write the three gases which constitute the Earth's atmosphere are dash dash and dash. So always begin, don't keep the blank at the beginning. You can keep the blank at the end or in between the sentence. Avoid lifting items directly from, you see, textbook. Silver is a good material to use as a, or in the electrical field, this is the application. Silver is a good material to use as a, and prepare a, you see, scoring key that contains all the anticipated acceptable answers. Okay, so now we'll move to essay type item. Essay type items are especially useful for measuring those aspects of complex achievements that cannot be measured by more objective means. These include the ability to supply rather than merely identify interpretations and applications of data, and secondly, the ability to select, organize, and integrate ideas in a journal attack on a problem. So outcomes of the first type are measured by restricted response essay questions, and outcomes of the second type are measured by extended response essay question. Now coming to restricted response essay questions. These questions usually limit both the content and the form of the student response, and the content is usually restricted by the scope of the topic to be discussed, and limitations on the form of response are generally indicated in the statement of the question. So you can see here both the components describe two situations that demonstrate the application of the law of conservation of energy. You see, you have to, the scope is two situation, and the nature of response is that the student has to describe. And I have put one more restriction. Do not use those examples discussed in the class. For example, I have given this question in a sessional test, so I am asking them to use different examples. Okay, describe the working of the carburetor and the cooling system of an IC engine, maybe two-stroke IC engine or four-stroke IC engine. Why is the barometer one of the most useful instruments for forecasting weather? Answer in a brief paragraph. Okay. State three main differences between covalent and electrovalent compounds. So scope is three differences, and you have to only state. So the nature of the response and the scope of the response, these are indicated. So these will provide reliable, you see, results, because here the student knows what to put in the answer. Okay, how to begin, how to end, and what to include. So it is clearly indicated in the statement of the question. Or when I say a stone loses its weight when it is immersed in water, explain two reasons for its apparent weight lost. So I have made deliberately made mistake in here. Explain two different reasons for its apparent weight lost. Now coming to, you see, extended response essay questions. Uh, the questions are: write a scientific, you see, evaluation of the Copernican theory of the solar system. Scientific evaluation include scientific observations that support your statements. Explain how poverty can be removed in India. Atha Sagar. Critically evaluate the admission criteria in the polytechnics or engineering colleges of your state. So you see, extended response question, if you look at these three examples, these questions allow the students to select any factual information that they think is pertinent. They are free to organize the answer in accordance with their best judgment, and they are free to integrate and evaluate ideas as they deem appropriate. So this kind of freedom which is given to the student enables them to demonstrate their ability to select, organize, integrate, and evaluate ideas. On the other hand, you see, this same freedom makes the extended response question inefficient for measuring more specific learning outcome, and introduces, you see, scoring difficulties that severely restrict its use as a, you see, measuring instrument. Now, let us have a look at the guidelines of constructing good quality essay type item. Uh, Restrict the use of essay questions to those learning outcomes that cannot be measured by objective items. I would advise all of you to include short answer question and restricted response question, and not extended response question in the semester examination. You have to enhance the reliability of your instrument. So reliability can be enhanced only when you make the students aware about the nature of the response and the scope of the response. So this is one guideline. Second is design relatively large number of items requiring long answers than few items requiring short answers. You see, when the question pattern is attempt any 5 out of 8 question, so you are asking him to attempt any 5. But in case there are short answer, slightly long answer, very long answer, like in Haryana, you have 10 questions of 1 mark or 2 mark each, then 6 questions of 5 mark each, and 3 questions of 10 marks. So it means there are number of questions. Okay, that is a good pattern. So long answer questions, if you have said write an essay on hydrochloric acid, write a short note on semiconductor, so such questions are, you see, prone to number of faults. Firstly, students often get quite lost in their own answers. They tend to repeat themselves and even are not sure when they said enough. Likewise, teachers get lost in reading page after page of the student's response to one question, and they also forget what the individual said earlier. Another advantage of extended response question, that is long answer question, is that only a small number of items or questions can be included in the test or examination, because of the limited amount of time available for most examination. So this time limit usually results in a poor sampling of the total content matter to be covered by the test, and consequently, you see, chance plays a large part in the result. I told you yesterday that a student prepares a guess that okay, I'll go for only these 4 chapters. If the guess is okay, then he may get 90% marks. If guess is not found appropriate, then he may get 20 marks. On the other hand, the student who has prepared for the entire syllabi may get 60 or 70 marks. So reliability can be enhanced by using more questions that call for short answers than by using fewer questions that require long answers. So a long test means a test containing more number of items, will provide a more adequate sample of behavior being measured, and this type of test will tend to, you see, lessen, that is reduce or minimize the influence of chance factors. And friends, let me tell you that scores based upon a large number of questions are more apt to reflect real differences in students' ability and are thus more stable. So, for enhancing the reliability, you have to increase the length of the question paper. Formulate questions that will call forth the behavior specified in the learning outcome. It means that you have to be careful to relate the test and the learning outcomes of the units so that maximum content validity can be achieved. Okay, so for example, if the ability to apply principle is being measured, then the question should be phrased in such a manner that they call forth that particular behavior. For example, if the learning outcome is that he or she will be able to define force, then the corresponding question would be define force and not what is force, what do you know about force, or what do you mean by force. So if you want to enhance the validity of your tool, then you have to relate the statement of the question with the statement of the learning outcome. So in the statement of the question, please indicate the student task clearly and specifically as possible. This you can do it by delimiting the scope of the topic to be covered and by using those words that themselves give direction, give specific direction, instruction. If you want him to draw a sketch, write sketch, draw any sketch. If you want him to explain any four property, say four, or application, four application, six application, and so on. Another, let me share with you certain poor items which I got from different question papers. You will see, you see, discuss organizations that contribute to the health of the community. This is a very vague question, very global question. Okay, now let me interpret. Firstly, what is meant by the word discuss? Discuss with whom? Does it imply listing organizations and their activities? Does it imply criticism and evaluation of what they do? Does it imply identification of gaps in the organization structure? Not clear. Student is very much confused. Secondly, does the teacher expect students to consider only government organization? Because it is not indicated in the statement of the question, or both government and private organizations that contribute to the health of a community? Not clear. That is why I am telling you this is a very global question, very vague. There is a lot of ambiguity. Thirdly, what does the teacher mean by contribute to? Does the teacher want the students to confine the answer to the kind of contribution that involve enforcement of health regulation, direct treatment of illness, preventive medicine, or does the teacher want the student to include contribution through education and research? Not clear. Compare the Democratic and Republican parties. Highly global question, because this can include many things. So this can be made, you see, specific by rephrasing this question. Compare the current policies of the Democratic and Republican parties with regard to role of government in private business. Okay. Now this is very much specific. Write a short note on the semiconductor. Again, a very global question. So don't use such type of questions. Other poor items. Discuss advantages of lubricants. How many advantages? There are various types of lubricant. Which specific type of lubricants? That is, advantages of which specific type of lubricants are you looking for? Not clear. What are Newton's laws of motion? I have discussed yesterday also. Whether you want him to describe all the three laws with one example or two example, not clear. What do you understand by Ohm's law? Whether you want him to state all the terms, that is the current, voltage, resistance, their SI units, their devices, the circuit diagram, the verification, the applications not clear. What do you understand by a strain gauze? Whether you want application or statement only. What are the principles of quality leadership in an organization? So whether you want him to write the principles, name the principles only, or to describe the then what are the various methods of inspection of casting for internal and external defects? Discuss Herzberg's motivation hygiene theory. Describe the Hawthorne experiments, very much global. What do you mean by the maintenance of an electronic equipment? Discuss features and block diagram. So discuss with whom? Write a note on types and purification. Atha Sagar. Okay. So please don't use phrases like what do you think? Discuss or tell what you know about or what do you understand by. Give your best definition of. You see, in management many concepts have been defined differently by different authors. Same, even motivation has been defined differently by different. So you are asking him to give your best definition. One student say, my best definition is this one, my this this is not. So in your opinion, what factors have contributed? So don't ask opinions in a end semester examination. So opinions or views can be asked in a through an assignment. Another is guideline is that uh, indicate an approximate time limit for each question. So this you see, you have to see whether this because after the exam is over, many students they complained that the question paper was very lengthy. So you have to see whether the student is able to answer all the 5 question or all the 50 or all the 30 question in 3 hours or not. You have to indicate the marks distribution against each part of question, and then essay questions should be written in the language of the students. They should be precise in meaning, unambiguous, give enough detail. So I would advise all my colleagues to discuss previous year's question paper before the end of the semester, so that the students are aware about the terminology used in the question paper. Enumerate, elucidate. So what do you mean by elucidate? So that so then uh, as a paper setter, you can write an ideal answer of those questions which you have included in a question book. So this will have a check on the quality of answer or the scope of the answer to be given by the student. Okay, or you can discuss with your colleague that I want this kind of response from my students, whether the statement of the question would indicate that particular response or not. So you can discuss with each other. Do not require too much writing for the time available, because when too much writing is required, the test item can turn into a speed writing content. For example, if I say describe the Hawthorne experiments, very lengthy. So the improved way is describe the importance of Hawthorne experiments in relation to your area of say work, whether you are doing a supervisory role or you are doing or as a teacher. Okay, do not use optional questions unless special circumstances make such options necessary. It means all the student should attempt all questions. You see in a question paper where the students are asked to attempt any 5 out of 8. Now one student is you see attempting question number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another student is attempting question number 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Another student is attempting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that. So different combination. Now my question is, will you be able to compare the learning abilities of the students? No. Learning abilities can be measured only if all the students attempt all the questions. So there should not be any external choice. You can go for internal choice up to 20 to 25%. That is, in question 1A, you can think of having the internal choice, or in question 1B, you can think of, and do construct items belonging to different mental abilities. That is, if all the questions are difficult, students' responses would be 54, 53, 52. If all the questions are easy, the students' responses would be like 88, 87, 86, and so on. So, what is the reliability? Consistency of results from one measurement to another. So, please follow the normal curve. That is, 20% of the questions should be of very difficult in nature, 20% of the students should questions should be of very simple in nature, and rest 60% questions should be of average difficulty level. So in this way, you will have a higher spread of score, and will result into you see high reliability. And always use new examples, illustrations for you see preparing your question paper. Don't repeat the previously year's question, you see, like that. So advantages are that you can measure complex learning outcome through essay type, which cannot be made by objective type items. So you can see their argumentative skill, you can see their expression also, and go beyond mere factual material, because in short answer only factual. So then easily and quickly constructed essays wise for improving the writing skill. uh, these favor the verbally fluent. Okay, so marking is subjective, leading to low reliability. So I will suggest to restrict yourself to restricted response essay question, so that your question paper can produce can have higher objectivity. Conscientious scoring is many times practically impossible, means that you are not you see giving the gaps in the answer of a particular student, and you are not showing the answer sheet to the students with some comments that students should know that why my marks are less here. So you have to give your you see feedback. That is not possible. So lack of time may not allow a student to display so in 3 hours only. Now, when to use restricted response essay type? When you want him to explain cause and effect relationship, describe applications of principles, present relevant arguments, or you want him to formulate the tentative hypothesis or valid conclusions, or state necessary assumptions, or describe the limitations of data, or explain methods and procedures. And when to use extended response question? When you are asking him to produce, organize, and express ideas, integrate learning in different areas, create original forms, and evaluate the worth of the ideas. So let me now share with you some of the items which can fall under Bloom's taxonomy. So when I go for remembering means the knowledge, that is the when the student is able to recall or recognize information, or you can say ideas. So you see the questions could be like define, identify, recognize, choose. Okay, describe what happens when. Okay, or how would you outline, list the components in a sequence, like this. So this is the lower level of knowledge. Now coming to the understanding, that is comprehension. So that is when the student is able to grasp the meaning of the material, or if when he is able to translate from one form to another form, or when he is able to interpret or extrapolate. Okay, so for example, if I say normal temperature of human body is 98.6 6 degree Fahrenheit, convert it into degree Celsius. So he or she will be able to do this conversion only once he has understood the relationship between degree Fahrenheit and degree Celsius. Or when you say how would you compare or contrast, or you see differentiate between, or generalize, express, or describe each of three Newton's laws of motion with one example, elaborate on this. You have given one statement, you are asking him to elaborate on, okay, or what would happen if, okay, or what can you say about this. So these type of wording can be included for writing items under you see understanding. Now moving to applying, that is when the student is able to apply whatever he has learned in another situation to solve the problem. So apply an abstract idea in a concrete situation to solve a problem or relate it to prior experience. So for example, the question would be, what action would you take to perform? How would you develop something to present something? Or you see, what other way would you choose to implement this? How would you modify? How would you change, like that? How would you alter? Then coming to the analyzing part, that is analysis. That is analysis means break down a concept or idea into parts and show interrelationships among the parts. How can you classify according to something? Okay, you are giving some condition. How can you compare the different parts? Or when I say discuss or describe the pros and cons of, okay, uh, how can you infer from the results? The results are given, what can you infer, okay, or what is the problem in you have presented a situation and asking him to identify the problem, like that, okay. So this is the application. Then coming to the evaluating, that is when the student is able to make some judgment about the value of idea or material, or when he is able to use standards and criteria to support opinion and views. So you can ask question like, describe the criteria would you choose to assess something, or uh, uh, present the data which is used to evaluate this thing, okay. Okay, how would you determine the facts, or how could you verify hmm, the Ohm's law, like that. Then last stage is creating, that is when the student is able to bring together parts of knowledge to form a whole and build relationships for new situations, okay. So what alternative would you suggest for, or write a program, you have given condition, draw a layout plan for the laboratory, okay, like that. So such type of question will fall under the creating stage of Bloom's taxonomy. So now I will stop here